She slapped a $400 fine on his door for a non-compliant garden gnome. She had no idea that the quiet man she'd just declared war on had spent 30 years catching people exactly like her. Frank Bishop was 63 years old, and all he wanted was a quiet place to grow tomatoes. After a long career and the loss of his wife 2 years earlier, he sold the big house, downsized, and bought a modest little home at the end of a cul-de-sac in a pleasant suburban neighborhood called Maple Grove. It had a small front yard, good morning light, and just enough room for the garden he'd always promised himself. To his new neighbors, Frank was the polite, soft-spoken man who waved every morning, kept his lawn tidy, and minded his own business. What none of them knew, what Frank never mentioned, was that for 3 decades, Frank Bishop had been a forensic accountant for the state, specializing in financial crimes. He had spent his entire career following paper trails that other people thought were invisible, and putting embezzlers, fraudsters, and thieves exactly where they belonged. He was retired now. He was done with all that. He just wanted his tomatoes. But Maple Grove, it turned out, had a queen, and her name was Patricia Hargrove. Patricia had been president of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association for 11 years, and in that time, she had turned a sleepy neighborhood association into her own personal kingdom. She drove the streets slowly in her white SUV, clipboard on the passenger seat, hunting for violations. A trash can left out an hour too long. A basketball hoop 2 feet too close to the curb. A shade of paint she personally disliked. And for every imagined offense, a fine, printed on official HOA letterhead, taped to your door, payable to the association. Most residents simply paid. It was easier than fighting her. Patricia was loud, relentless, and vindictive, and everyone in Maple Grove had learned that the cost of crossing her was a campaign of fines, complaints, and public humiliation that never seemed to end. So they kept their heads down and paid. And Patricia grew bolder every single year. Frank had been in his new home for exactly 3 weeks when she came for him. He was kneeling in his front garden, planting a row of marigolds, when a white SUV slid to a stop at his curb. Patricia got out, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on, and surveyed his yard the way a general surveys a battlefield. "You're the new one," she said. It was not a greeting. "Bishop, is it? I'm Patricia Hargrove, HOA president. I'll be brief." That, she pointed a manicured finger at a small ceramic garden gnome sitting cheerfully among the marigolds, is a non-compliant lawn ornament. Section 12, paragraph 4. You'll need to remove it. Frank looked at the gnome. It had been his wife's. He looked back at Patricia and smiled politely. "Good morning. It's just a little gnome. My late wife loved it. I don't think it's bothering anyone." Patricia's smile thinned. "The rules don't care what your wife loved, Mr. Bishop. The rules are the rules. Remove it, or there'll be a fine." And with that, she turned, climbed back in her SUV, and drove off. The next morning, there was a notice taped to his door. A $400 fine for a garden gnome. Now, here's the thing about Frank Bishop. He was a patient man, patient the way the ocean is patient, the way water wears down stone. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He simply took the notice inside, set it on his kitchen table, made himself a cup of coffee, and read it very, very carefully. And as he read it, something stirred in him that he hadn't felt in 2 years. The old instinct, the quiet, careful attention of a man who had spent his life reading documents that were designed to hide things. Because the fine notice didn't quite add up. The amount didn't match the schedule printed in the HOA bylaws. There was no violation number, and a line that said where the money should be paid listed an account he didn't recognize. Frank set down his coffee. "Well now," he murmured to the empty kitchen. "That's interesting." He decided, for the moment, to do nothing except watch. And over the next several weeks, he watched a great deal. He watched Patricia find the young couple across the street, the Garcias, $600 for a child's chalk drawing on their own driveway. He watched her threaten an elderly widow 2 doors down with a lien for a cracked mailbox. He watched her stand in the Garcias driveway and tell them, loudly enough for the whole street to hear, that if they couldn't afford to live by Maple Grove standards, perhaps they couldn't afford to live in Maple Grove at all. That last one stuck with Frank, because the young husband, Miguel Garcia, had gone pale, and his wife had started to cry, and Frank understood exactly what that fear was. It was the fear of losing your home, and Patricia Hargrove was using it as a weapon. So Frank did what Frank did best. He started pulling the thread. As a homeowner and dues-paying member of the association, Frank had a legal right to inspect the HOA's financial records. So he sent a polite written request to the board, asking to review the association's books, bank statements, and fine records for the past 5 years. It was a simple, lawful request. Any honest association would have handed them over without a second thought. Patricia refused. She refused the first time, claiming the records were confidential. She refused the second time, claiming Frank had no standing. The third time, Frank put his request in certified writing, citing the exact state statute that guaranteed his right to the documents. She showed up at his door personally, furious. "I don't know what you think you're doing," she hissed, "but you're making a very big mistake. People who make trouble in this neighborhood do not last long here. I will bury you in fines. I will put a lien on this little house of yours so fast your head will spin. Do you understand me?" Frank stood calmly in his doorway, the same gentle expression on his face. "I understand you perfectly, Mrs. Hargrove," he said. "Thank you for being so clear." And he closed the door gently, because Patricia had just made a mistake far bigger than any of her fines. She had told a 30-year financial crimes investigator that she had something to hide, and then she had tried to scare him away from finding it. What Patricia didn't know was that she had already given Frank everything he needed to begin. The fine notices she'd taped to doors all over the neighborhood, including the ones to the Garcias and the widow, listed that same unfamiliar account number. So Frank, quietly and methodically, began to collect them. He knocked on doors. He introduced himself. He listened to neighbors who had been too frightened to speak for years, and one by one, they gave in their fine notices, their canceled checks, their bank records showing money paid to the Maple Grove HOA. Then Frank cross-referenced all of it against the association's public filings. The documents an HOA is legally required to file with the state. And there, in the cold black and white of the numbers, the truth came out. The Maple Grove Homeowners Association collected hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in dues and fines. But the association's official filings reported only a fraction of that amount. The rest, the fines for gnomes and chalk drawings and mailboxes, tens of thousands of dollars every single year, had been flowing into a private account, an account belonging to Patricia Hargrove. For 11 years, Patricia hadn't been enforcing the rules. She had been running a scam. The fines were never about the neighborhood. They were about her. She had invented violations, intimidated her neighbors into paying, and quietly funneled the money into her own pocket, close to $400,000 over a decade. Frank sat at his kitchen table late into the night, the documents spread out in front of him, the old marigold-loving gnome watching from the windowsill, and he felt the quiet, steady certainty he had felt 1,000 times in his career. He had her. He had her completely. But Frank didn't gloat, and he didn't rush. He did what he had always done. He built the case. He organized every fine notice, every bank record, every filing into a clean, airtight file, the kind of file he had once handed to prosecutors. Then he made 2 phone calls, one to an old colleague at the state attorney's office, and one to request a special meeting of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association, open to all residents. The night of the meeting, the community clubhouse was packed. Word had spread that the new man, the quiet one at the end of the cul-de-sac, had something to say. Patricia sat at the front table, arms crossed, radiating contempt, certain she was about to crush whatever foolish complaint this nobody had brought. She opened the meeting by going on the attack. "Before we begin," she announced, "I'd like to address the disruptive behavior of our newest resident, Mr. Bishop, who has been harassing this board and spreading lies. I'm recommending a $5,000 fine for conduct detrimental to the association, and I'd remind everyone what happens to people who—" "Mrs. Hargrove," Frank said, rising slowly from his seat, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room. "Before you find me again, I think the neighbors would like to know where their money has been going for the last 11 years. And then Frank Bishop, the polite man who just wanted to grow tomatoes, walked to the front of the room and set down his file. One by one, he laid it out. The fines that matched no bylaw. The account that belonged to no association. The hundreds of thousands of dollars that had vanished from the books and reappeared in Patricia Hargrove's personal bank account. He spoke plainly, without anger, the way an accountant reads a ledger, and that calm, devastating clarity was worse for Patricia than any shouting could ever have been. The room went from silent to murmuring to furious. The Garcias stared at the figure for their chalk drawing fine. The elderly widow pressed a hand to her mouth. 11 years of fear and forced payments. And here, finally, was the truth of it. Patricia shot to her feet, her face white, then red. These are lies, fabrications. He has no right." "I have every right," Frank said gently. "And so does the gentleman sitting in the back of the room, who's been listening to all of this very carefully." He nodded toward a man in a plain dark suit near the door, who stood and held up a badge. "This is an investigator from the state attorney's office. I gave him the file this morning." Patricia Hargrove sank back in her chair as if her legs had simply stopped working. In the months that followed, the truth ran its course the way truth does when someone finally writes it all down. Patricia was removed as president by a unanimous vote of the residents. The state attorney's office charged her with embezzlement, fraud, and theft. The court ordered full restitution, every dollar, returned to the homeowners she had stolen from. The Garcias got their money back. The widow got hers back, and the fine notice taped to Frank's door, the $400 for a garden gnome, was voided, along with 11 years of fines that had never been legitimate in the first place. The neighbors asked Frank to take over as president of the HOA. He thanked them and politely declined. He helped them write fair new bylaws, set up honest, transparent books that any resident could inspect at any time, and made sure no one would ever again be able to turn Maple Grove into a private kingdom. And then he went back to his garden. On a warm morning that spring, Miguel Garcia walked over with his little daughter to say thank you, and found Frank kneeling among his tomatoes, the small ceramic gnome smiling up from its place in the marigolds. "How did you know?" Miguel asked. "How did you know she was stealing?" Frank smiled and brushed the soil from his hands. "I didn't at first," he said. "I just knew that a person who's that afraid of being looked at usually has a reason. The loud ones, the ones who rule by fear," he glanced at the gnome, "they count on everyone being too frightened to ask questions. So you ask the questions, quietly, and you let the numbers do the shouting. Because that is the truth about people like Patricia Hargrove and people like Frank Bishop. The tyrant rules by noise and fear, betting that no one will ever look too closely. And the quiet ones, the patient ones, the ones who wave every morning and mind their own business, are very often the ones paying the closest attention of all. If this story gave you that satisfying feeling of justice, do me a favor and comment one word: karma. And if you believe the quiet ones deserve to win, subscribe. There are more stories like this coming. Thank you for listening.